Hey guys, my name is Diane Hammonds, and I'm sharing our small group project that I created with my peers Nikki C, Nikki T, and Holly S. I'm just going to narrate over this PowerPoint, walk us through some of the background to the role play, and then we'll get to the actual role play and discussion. Okay, so for our background scenario, we wanted our scenario to take place in a middle school. The players involved in the role play will be the social worker, a 7th grade student, that student's teacher, and then that student's mother. So for this scenario, conflict arises really surrounding the student and some of their behaviors in the classroom. The student is disruptive, loud, speaking out of turn, calling out a lot, getting up and going to the bathroom a lot, and the teacher's feeling overwhelmed, not too sure how to cope with it. Just to keep in mind that this student also is not connected to any kind of mental health services, learning services, or anything like that. They don't currently have any diagnoses and haven't had any kind of contact with special education services or anything like that. So this is going to be a first contact for them and their parent with a social worker. So in order to deal with the students' behaviors or try to find a way to teach around them, the teacher has decided to create a 3-card system, which essentially means that the student has 3 chances to speak or interrupt or disrupt. And then after that, once they reach that 3rd time, they're cut off for the rest of the class. They're silenced. They can't speak again. The teacher was finding that it's kind of backfiring. The teacher's getting frustrated. The student definitely doesn't like the restriction, and the parent is also very upset about it. So the social worker is calling a meeting to try to get everyone on the same page, to get them to be willing to work with one another. And for our role play, we really focus on that first half of the meeting where we're just doing our interventions, and then we imagine that in the second part of the meeting, they go into connecting the student with assessment services to see if they can benefit from having an IEP or maybe getting connected with mental health or special education services. So for the role play, Nikki T is playing the 7th grade student. I'm the student's mom. Nikki C is the social worker. Holly is the teacher, and since we have 2 Nikkis in our group, whenever you hear us say little Nikki, we're referring to Nikki T, who's playing the 7th grade student. Okay, so for our first intervention, we chose the common ground intervention. We chose this because we felt like it made the most sense to get mom and teacher on the same page. We just imagined them as being the most passionate and frustrated in the group with the loudest voices. And I know sometimes when you're trying to have a big meeting like that, sometimes the 2 people that are the angriest, you really got to get them to come to be on the same page first, and then the rest of the group can move forward. So as you'll see in the role play, mom is very passionate and upset and has a really tough time sticking with the common ground rules. And you'll see the social worker kind of constantly redirecting her, coaching her, bringing her back. Just coaching her to listen to the teacher and then coaching the teacher to listen to mom. So this intervention was really to help mom and teacher hear each other and see things from the other person's perspective. Next, we use nonviolent communication. I know that this technique is very broad and very deep. It's very meaty. There's a whole lot to it. But for time's sake and for the sake of our role play, we boiled it down to just 4 factors, which would be making an observation without judgment, identifying feelings, identifying needs, and then making a request that can be met in the present. So the social worker uses this technique really between the student and the teacher to help student and teacher both be able to express how they feel in the classroom, what they need in the classroom to be successful, and how they're interpreting what's going on, what's been going on in the classroom right now. And we imagine that because the student is a 7th grader, they would have even more trouble with self-awareness than most people do. So you'll see the students struggle a little bit with identifying their needs and their feelings, and then you'll see the social worker coaching them through that to get student and teacher on the same page to hear from each other's perspective, but with using nonviolent communication. It's very easy. We're all conditioned to use judgmental language, and you'll see that in the role play, but the social worker kind of coaches them out of that. Okay, so for our role playing discussion, we filmed these two things separately, but they're in this video together. So for our role play, you'll see it from the beginning through using common ground, through using nonviolent communication. And then the social worker says, okay, why don't we talk about next steps? That could be like getting connected to assessment services, establishing an IEP, getting connected with therapy if needed, things like that. We just imagine that that goes on afterwards. The role play really stops there. And then you'll see that the screen switches, and then we dive right into our discussion questions. So we'll begin. I'll stop jabbering. I'll make this big. I'll make myself disappear.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to this meeting. I know we're all gathered here to kind of see how we can best help little Nikki. And I just thought it would be helpful if we started off by introducing ourselves, giving our name and our role, and what we want to get out of today's meeting.
I am Diane. I'm the mother of little Nikki, and I'm here today because I understand my daughter's been having some problems in the classroom, and I'm here to advocate for her and kind of defend her because I'm a little frustrated about what's been going on.
Okay. Thank you.
My name is Polly. I'm the teacher of little Nikki. I think that I would hope that we could kind of find a better understanding of each other and what's going on so that we can come to an agreement or a common ground moving forward. Yeah.
I'm Nikki. I'm the student. I'm hoping that Miss Holly would be a little more understanding. It would start treating me more fairly after this meeting.
Yeah.
And I'm Nikki also, and I'm a social worker for the school. And I'm just hoping that everybody leaves here today feeling that their feelings and opinions and views were heard. All right? So I guess we can just get started now. So we're here for this meeting today because everybody's had some concerns about Nikki and what's going on with Nikki in the class. And first I want to kind of do an exercise with you all to hopefully help everybody be heard. And I just want to lay some ground rules down. I just want everybody to know that we all agree to confidentiality, meaning what's said in this room stays in this room, that we use respectful language, and that we remember that this is not a debate. So that's just like some basic ground rules. And then for this exercise to work, we'll have one person express their views to the other person. So maybe we'll have Diane, Mom, express your feelings and views to Miss Holly.
Okay.
At that time, Miss Holly, you will simply listen and understand that once Diane is done talking, you will then need to reflect back to her what you heard her say. At that point, Diane, you're able to confirm or negate that Holly has gotten your message across correctly. And if you feel that she has, then we'll move on. If you feel that she didn't or she left something out, you will then restate what you were saying to her, how you feeling, and then Holly, you will reflect back to her until Diane feels that you clearly understood her message and heard her message. And then once we get to that point, we'll flip-flop roles where Miss Holly will give her opinion, and Diane, you'll listen with the intention of being able to reflect back what you heard her say.
Okay.
Miss Holly feels that you've completely expressed what she was saying.
Okay.
Do we all agree to those rules? And
Yeah.
all right. And then the important part is to really try to work to listen and not interrupt the other person.
Okay.
And then I will help coach everybody through this.
Okay.
So, who would like to start?
I can start if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. So basically, I've been feeling frustrated lately with this whole card system scenario. I'm frustrated that my daughter's really only given 3 chances to speak up in class, and that after that, she's pretty much silenced. I want her to have a voice. I mean, what if she truly needs help or needs to go to the bathroom or something and she can't speak up? If she uses her 3 chances, I just feel like her needs are not being met, and she's also labeled as this troublemaker.
Okay. Thank you, Diane. So now, Holly, this would be your chance to reflect back to Diane what you heard her saying.
So, Diane, what I heard you say is that you feel like in my classroom, your daughter is being silenced and you are concerned that you want to make sure she's getting the help that she needs.
Yeah, that's correct. But I want to make the point that I feel like she's being labeled as a troublemaker. I don't appreciate your tone with my child in the classroom. I mean, like, who do you think you are? You think because you're the teacher that you're always right and that my kid is always wrong? I mean, Nikki comes home and tells me what's going on.
How would you know what my tone is in the classroom? And in my classroom, I am right.
Oh, okay, ladies, hold on. I just want to jump in really quickly. And I want to remind you, this is not a debate, and we need everybody to remain respectful in their responses. And I want to reiterate that it's important for you to listen to one another and not just feel like you're trying to get everything out at one time and kind of, increasing the conflict. So, Diane, you will express how you feel to Miss Holly. Miss Holly, could you please listen without interrupting?
Okay.
And then we'll reflect back Miss Holly until Diane feels heard, and then we'll switch roles. So
Okay.
Can we all commit to the rules again? Recommit to the rules?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Okay, I apologize. I took it far really fast. I just feel very passionate about my child. I'm hurt that my child's labeled as a troublemaker, and I do want her to have a voice in the classroom.
Okay, Miss Holly, what do you feel like you heard Miss Diane say?
I also wanted to say that I apologize for what I said earlier and for interrupting.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Definitely. And I heard her say that, obviously I want to say too that I think we're both on the same page with this situation. There's a lot of feelings involved. So, you're very passionate about your child. I think that's going to make you feel even more feelings towards the situation. And I heard that you feel hurt because your child is labeled as a troublemaker and you want to make sure that your child has a voice in the classroom.
Yes, you got it.
Okay. Good job, ladies. Thank you for following the rules again. And now I want to give Miss Holly a chance to express your feelings and views. So, Diane, you will listen to what Miss Holly is saying, understand that you will then have to reflect back what you thought you heard Holly saying.
Okay.
All right? Okay. Go on, Miss Holly.
So in my classroom, little Nikki had been a little bit disruptive throughout the beginning of the year so far. And by disruptive, I mean that she was asking kind of a lot of questions so that maybe other students didn't feel like they had room to talk. She often was getting out of her chair and she was calling out. So she was trying to answer without raising her hand. It can be really overwhelming as a teacher because, there's one of me and there's about 30 other children in the room, and I have to find out ways to handle the classroom just by myself. So in order to make sure that everyone gets what they want, I have to, do whatever I can to make sure that I can control the classroom.
Okay, thank you, Miss Holly.
So I heard you say that Nikki's being disruptive and you want to make sure all kids get their needs met. However, I do feel that you're prioritizing the other students over Nikki.
Okay, I want to jump in again. Just time out. Diane, I need you to reflect back what you heard Holly say without adding your opinion. Simply just reflecting what you heard Miss Holly saying. So
yeah.
That's
tough. I'm sorry. I understand. I'm just very protective of my child, and it is hard for me to hear you say these things about her because at home she's very different. She's usually so quiet, follows rules and directions, no problem.
I totally get that. I really understand that, your kids are going to act differently when they're in the classroom around their peers versus, when they're home with you. And I understand how that can be confusing and concerning, especially if you're saying that she's, quiet and follows everything that you say.
Okay, thank you, ladies, again. So, Diane, I want to give you a chance to reflect back what you heard Holly saying initially.
Okay. So I heard her say that there are a lot of kids in the class and she's by herself, and that Nikki's disruptions do require a lot of her energy.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, very good. Thank you again, ladies. So, do Diana and Holly, do you feel like you were heard before we move on?
Yeah.
Each of you?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it.
Okay, good. All right, so now I just want to switch gears a little bit and have little Nikki join the discussion. And because right now it seems like we can agree that something should be addressed with little Nikki. So we have reached that common ground, understanding it. So now we want to kind of switch gears and use a technique called nonviolent communication. And this technique will help Lil Nikki and Miss Holly identify their feelings and what they need to get from each other, and then how to request it. Okay? So first we want to start with each person making an observation about what's going on in the classroom. So who would like to go first?
I will go first. Miss Holly is totally unfair and mean.
Okay, I hear you, little Nikki. However, that's kind of a judgment, right? To say unfair and mean, that is like a judgment about Miss Holly. So what I kind of need you to do is tell me something that is happening. Give me an observation that doesn't include a judgment word, but like just an actual behavior that's going on. So would you like to try again? Maybe you could tell us something that Miss Holly does or does not do.
Like Miss Holly only lets me make 3 requests per class.
Exactly. So good job. That was a great observation. Now tell us how you feel about when you're only allowed to make 3 requests per class.
I don't know how I feel.
Okay. So I just take a second and think back to when you weren't allowed to make a 4th request. And here I'll give you a listing of some feeling words you can use that might help you identify those feelings. So just take a second. It's okay to take a second and think about it. So how do you feel when you can't make another request after the 3 requests?
I feel frustrated and angry.
Good. Great job identifying those feelings, because sometimes that can be like kind of tough. So can you tell us what you need from Miss Holly?
I need her to understand me and I need her to support me.
Okay. Thank you. That sounds very clear, so we know that the observation was that you can only make 3 requests. You are feeling frustrated and angry about that. You need understanding and support from Miss Holly. And now I want you to then make a request to Miss Holly about her meeting your needs.
Miss Holly, can you call on me more?
Yeah, I think I could definitely call on you more. And I'm really sorry to hear that you've been feeling frustrated and angry. And that was never, my intention to make you feel any negative way.
Oh.
Thank you, ladies. Good job. So Miss Holly, kind of following the same format of making an observation about what's happening in the classroom and telling us how you feel about that. Also, what needs do you have that you feel are being met or not met? And then being able to make a request of Nikki.
Definitely. So, Nikki, when you interrupt in class, it leaves me feeling pretty overwhelmed and frustrated because my need for order and respect aren't met. Would you be willing to meet with me one-on-one for daily check-ins after class? Possibly.
Yeah, I would like to have a one-on-one check-in with you.
Great. So I just want to know, does everyone feel like they were heard in this meeting and their needs were addressed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I guess we can just start discussing some of our next steps moving forward, if everybody's okay with that.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so just some issues relating to diversity and oppression. We really wanted to hone in on the student that has some different learning and emotional support needs in a regular education setting, and how the teacher was definitely being oppressive by shutting that student down, only allowed them to speak 3 times to class, and really not getting their needs met. And then another point that we kind of thought about, like some hypotheticals, like how could this situation have played out differently if little Nikki wasn't a white female? For instance, if she was a black male, or if she was already diagnosed, how could that have played out with her having this meeting so soon as an intervention, and how would that have looked differently? And we definitely think it would definitely look differently, as well as how does this look differently in an urban setting versus a suburban setting.
Yeah.
So those were some of the issues that came up for city and parks.
So when choosing the techniques that we were going to use, we had definitely tossed around quite a couple ideas. We considered doing the talking papers, and what we ended up settling on were the Common Grounds technique as well as the nonviolent communication. And with Common Grounds, we kind of altered it to what would work best with our scenario.
Yeah. So Nikki C, as the social worker, she used Common Ground as the first technique. And as you can see in the role play, it was primarily used to help the mom and the teacher get on the same page, since they were butting heads the most. Like me as the mom, I felt really defensive of Nikki, my kid, but then Holly also felt defensive of herself as a teacher, feeling overwhelmed in the class. And so they were in disagreement. So the Common Ground technique was used to help them both be able to hear each other. It didn't help them come to a conclusion, but myself and Holly, we went back and forth, saying how we feel and our thoughts without judgment, to hear the other person. And in the role play, I messed up and I added some of my own personal feelings in there, which Nikki C, as the social worker, was able to redirect. The second half of the role play was about nonviolent communication. That was primarily between Holly, who was the teacher, and Nikki T, who was the student. And that was used to help them understand how the other feels and what the other needs. So obviously in the role play, it went way smoother than it goes in real life, but both of them were able to identify how they feel using non-judgmental language, and then identify a reasonable request from the other person. So Nikki T requested to be called on more often so that she felt like she had a voice. And then Holly requested to do a daily check-in with Nikki T, just so that they could talk to each other, touch base before class, and maybe start off the class with a bond or close it with a little check-in. So all around, everyone was able to connect, and that's the two ways that we use the two techniques, Common Ground and nonviolent communication.
Okay, so at this point, we feel that we reached the community stage. We all respect each other's ideas, opinions. We all feel free to contribute. We all feel this is a good environment to voice our opinion, to receive feedback. I felt it was very evident when writing the skit. I feel like everybody had the choice to openly discuss what they feel each role should say instead of their own. Especially within myself, in the beginning, I was a lot more shyer than I am now, so I feel like I definitely saw progress as a group within all of us.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there's our discussion questions. It's been really fun. I feel like for us working together, at first, definitely I felt more stiff. Now I'm able to crack a lot of jokes. We get stuff done. We can disagree with each other. We can shape things. Everyone's pretty flexible and open to everyone else's ideas. So I definitely agree that we're in the working stage.
Definitely. And thank you everyone for watching our small group project.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for watching our presentation. It was a lot of fun to make it with the ladies, and we eagerly await your feedback.